Welcome back to part 4 of the Captain's Auction Warehouse October 15, 2022 auction. Some great rare electromechanical games coming up in this row. Going to be some fun things that you don't see very often, so enjoy this video. Bally Happy Tour from the 60s. This is one of the Bally Add-A-Ball games at a time when the company had mostly been diverted into making bingo machines. This was one of their relatively rare pinballs. And you can see the travel theme is in the back glass of the various cities you visit. The carries down into the playfield with a kind of a circular shot-oriented playfield and some can-can girls at the bottom for extra fun. Williams Teacher's Pet. This is, I think, a very fun game. Also from this Williams mid-60s era. Everybody playing in the back glass there, nice and bad students. Just a hilarious piece of pinball art there to go with the theme. And that carries down to the butyrates, the plastics as well. The gameplay features drop targets there that you can reset with the up targets feature, and generally a fun game to play, I think. Bally Delta Queen, beautiful example of one of the single player Bally's that just had gorgeous art on it in the this time frame in the 70s. This steamship, just beautifully executed, very kind of faithful details there. I'm not saying that's Tom and Huck, but I'm not saying it's not. The playfield kind of carries that theme out. Just one of the most attractive games I think that Bally ever made. You can't see it very well from the angle, but also, you know, the cabinet carries on with that beautiful artwork too. Doodlebug Williams. This is one of my very favorite games, single player games especially, because not only does it have the great pointy people Kristen Marsh art on the back box, again purple. I think it's just purple and pink, I don't know. But this gameplay starts out with the top, and you see it's focused around the Doodlebug in the center of the playfield, which goes back and forth as long as you've started it, which you start with the center target. The problem is that there's no way to actually hold the ball in this game, and every time that Doodlebug goes, it could score either 10, 100, or up to 10,000 points, and that is a very challenging thing to do. You just have to complete 1, 2, 3, and 4 to advance that score, but good luck holding onto that ball if you score 10,000 on the Doodlebug. I think I've only done it once in all the games I've played. 100,000 light on the back box, but you can vastly exceed that when you play this game. Gottlieb's Bank Shot. This is one of the interesting Gottlieb games from this period. This is an Add-A-Ball game, as you can see from the balls to play, but it's also a mega score game, as I call it. You can see the 100,000 in the back glass, but that actually goes up to, I believe, 1.9 million in lights in the back box, making it quite unique. Extra balls shown with the little chandelier feature there, and the pool theme. So a good game that requires accuracy from everything from the initial shot of the plunger on throughout the entire game to be able to do well. Williams Space Lab. This is one of the lesser produced versions of this game. This is an Add-A-Ball version of the Skylab that you would see in the replay territories, and it has the kind of traditional around playfield effort, so that you've got to get a flow, and you're actually trying to hit those side rubbers to actually get the letters, which is kind of an unusual approach, actually making letters with switches in the sides rather than specific targets. And so that and the ball across feature in the center make for a super fun game, and Skylab and Space Lab were very successful for the company. Williams Palooka, definitely you will see the Honeymooners theme on the back box here. Everybody actually referring to that in the boxing theme as well. At least I think that's what it's supposed to be. If it's not Honeymooners, it's something else like that. I don't know. So maybe I'm just wrong. I don't know. But the targets actually make this a fun game too. You can see there's actually 5 targets around the playfield. You can knock them down, and then it kind of carries out the theme of the boxing to be able to knock the targets over, and then they pop back up. All right, Gottlieb's Strange World. There's certainly, if I had to pick one Gordon Morrison piece of art, this is probably it. He got to kind of unleash his creativity in every way in the Strange World back glass. Just a completely wild piece of back glass art, justly famous for being an incredibly inventive game. In the playfield, the art continues, and it's a very, very playable game with very interesting shots, because not only do you have the plunger shots that you have to make, but it also carries with some very, very low flipper shots. You can see there on the left and on the right. So completing the 1, 2, 3, 4 in the different colors turns out to be quite a challenge. Beautiful game, hard to find game, especially in this kind of condition. So really a great title. Gottlieb's Crosstown. Here you have first example of the animated kind of subway doors that open. Various things are done on the playfield. This is a beautiful Crosstown. Backglass is very nice on this game. And that kind of subway rider theme also carried out not only the door, but you can see, kind of hard to see, but as I move this through, you can see that the back glass is kind of two-dimensional. You've got windows in the back glass and then additional art. So it really does look like you're seeing inside a subway car. Carries on to the play field with the art, and this one just gorgeous. Gorgeous Crosstown. Beautiful to look at. Beautiful game. Egghead. This is another one of my favorite pieces of artwork. This is Roy Parker doing an amazing job dealing with the early advent of robotics. And you can see that he takes a very humorous approach to it with the Egghead title, and then the robot who is tasked with completing the X's and O's to do tic-tac-toe. You can see that the ladies seem to be having a hard time beating old Oxy the robot, but if there's any problem, you can see there's somebody over here that says Quiet and Genius, the scientist that may or may not have something to do with what's going on in the robot's activities. You can see that he's actually working with the electronic confuser, and as you can see, it's Quiet Genius at work. So tremendous. Also a reference to the early computers. There is the Unipac, not quite it. And of course it's fueled with neutrons, oldtrons, and usetrons. And we all know that's how it works, so that's all good. Continues on with the play field. Here the robot's having fun with the girl, and the pop-upper layout, you're making the bumpers, and depending on when you've selected X or O by the rollover at the beginning, those are what you make in the tic-tac-toe matrix that's at the bottom of the play field. So you can switch which you're doing O and X by hitting those targets, but once you do, it becomes kind of challenging to try to control whether you've got X's or O's coming up. Just a fantastic game and a tremendous piece of historic artwork in a pinball machine. Great to see it together here. Bally Odds and Evens. This brings us forward into the 70s. This is a Dave Christensen game in terms of the artwork. You can see the Christensen style players in the back glass, if you will. There's, of course, the multiplayer Monte Carlo game, and then the single-player Odds and Evens, which I think is a very attractive piece. This is a nice one. Very nice roulette wheel art on the play field that carries down. And, of course, more of the Christensen ladies in the butyrates and the plastics on the bottom. And you can see it's a rollover game, and at your initial shot, you're trying to make those numbers. Another absolutely fantastic wedge head, Gottlieb's Flipper Pool. This one with drop-down pool balls that are in the top, light up as well in the actual pool surface, and you're trying to make all across the playfield. An absolutely fantastic playing game in terms of the rule set and how you're trying to make those pool shots, and you are rewarded with visual evidence of what you're doing in the back box. And this is the Add-A-Ball, so it all comes together in Flipper Pool. Beautiful game. Flipper Clown, one of the Flipper series of early Add-A-Ball pinball machines that Gottlieb made as they're transitioning away from the wood rails. You can see that it has a clown that's hitting a thing that comes up and hits the target. There you can see one of the earlier examples of the famous Gottlieb sun, and in this case she's riding on the moon. So beautiful, beautiful Parker artwork in this back box. And again, the theme carries nicely into the playfield as you deal with this primarily roto-target theme game. The roto-target numbers change, and that impacts, of course, how successful you are on the gameplay. Gottlieb's Buccaneer, back into the 70s we go for this beautiful pirate-themed game. This is the replay version. You'll see Ship Ahoy later. Beautifully detailed art here in the back box with the pirate theme. Again, carrying down to some amazingly detailed plastic work on the play field. And a super fun game as you try to spot all the numbers from 1 to 11, either through making the rollovers or when you hit that spinner, the yellow lights circle around and will spot the one that it lands on. Makes for a fun game to play. Williams Kingpin. This is a bowling theme game, one of the earliest ones that had the rollovers in the shape area or design of the rolling bowling pins. So you're having to make shots with your flippers that go over those rollovers to actually complete the 10 pins. Again, kind of very cool, kind of vintage art, a little bit more basic comic style in the artwork here. This is a piece of history here. This is Williams Skill Ball. This is the very first Add-A-Ball game from Williams. Gottlieb had just before introduced the Add-A-Ball capability with Flipper, which you saw in the earlier video. Here is Skill Ball with the magic theme on this. This was their move away from the styling of the 60s cabinet and into more conventional wooden, metal cabinet, as the other companies used. And this is just a beautiful example of this very, rare and historic game. The very first Add-A-Ball electromechanical pinball from Williams. Gottlieb's spin wheel. Here we go with that youth culture art from the 60s that I mentioned as a favorite of Gottlieb. You can see these youth don't seem too disaffected. They're having a good time playing spin wheel, and that is played out on the playfield as when you hit those saucers, then you're going to get the spin in the back glass to actually show the spin occur with that great art. Bally's hang glider toward the end of the solid state, electromechanical era, just before the solid states, was this game. Relatively rarely seen for reasons that I don't completely understand, but this was certainly a favorite of my youth, playing this hang glider game. And of course the hang glider theme is very attractive, and I always kind of like this guy's self-confident look on his face. I mean, he doesn't even seem to care about anything but just enjoying his ride. OXO. This is a beautiful example of Norm Clark's brilliant OXO game. This is another tic-tac-toe theme game. I think executed well. O and X in the rollovers, and then carries on, and whatever you have selected with the O and X, that's what spots the actual center of the playfield OXO matrix. And so it's a tic-tac-toe theme game. This has an absolutely stunning back glass on it and a beautiful playfield to go with it as well. Great pinball machine, great Kristen Marsh art. Bally's Old Chicago. Again, a Chicago-themed pinball machine featuring the gangster kind of back glass there. Just a beautiful example of this. This is Dave Christensen at his best, I think. He's capturing this kind of theme. And Old Chicago is a very cool homage to, again, the history of the city that brought us all of these pinball machines, every one of which was manufactured in Chicago. Bally Fireball, of course, legendary pinball machine with the Dave Christensen art, again, in the back box, and the famous spinner on the playfield that redirects the ball. A lot of very innovative features make this a game that is a bit of an equalizer game. There's definitely a skill element, but there's definitely a luck element to this game too. And there's a lot of reasons why this has become one of the most popular electromechanical pinball machines from the 70s. One more Christensen here, Air Aces. See it a little bit less often than some of the others. I like the not only the airplane, but also the mission accomplished over here. I'm not quite sure what mission, but what the heck. This is a center target theme game with the flippers on left and right, similar to certain other games that you will see later in the auction. And this is a nice example of an Air Aces, and it shows you that and has the artwork on the side as well. I can't show every side cabinet, but there's a lot of great side cabinet art in this auction as well. Big Valley, a little bit less often seen pinball machine here. You can see that the early multi-ball game, this is actually a multi-ball game, and you can actually imagine that from the early 1970s, along with Fireball earlier, which is another one of the early multi-balls. This has the Western theme, as you can see, with the guys in the back box, some of the mountain cats, I guess, and the bucking horse in the center and the dog. Just a beautiful piece of work. Bally Gator. This, to me, is a legendary Jerry Kelly piece of art. Beautiful machine. It's got very cool renditions of the gator in the back glass, and I also like the parrot. I mean, that's just tremendous to me. and just take a look at the dynamics of what's going on here with avoiding the gator. Just a tremendous piece of work. Typical asymmetric playfield from this era, and very cool game, very historic and beautiful pinball machine. Bally bow and arrow from the 70s. A lot of you familiar with this game. Shows the kind of a respectful treatment of Native Americans, in my opinion. Beautiful backglass art and a nice layout that leads to a fun game with the double spinners to kind of keep the action going and always interesting in the game. It's our second Captain Fantastic of the auction. Also looks pretty good. Good backglass. You see some of the details of the art again there. So you see what that is. Kind of take a look at what this one looks like relative to the other one. That's our second Captain Fantastic. Dodge City. This has the animated cowboy in the back glass that actually dances around for us during the game. And I'm going to light him up there. You see him dancing around. There we set the game for you. And the playfield kind of carries on with the theme, and you're actually shooting under as the roto target lights up the value of the shots. So fittingly enough, Dodge City is very much a shooter's game to be able to do, accurate shots through those centers. And I also enjoy this game because it has a relatively narrow flipper gap and side gap, so you actually get some pretty good play time on this game, which is cool for this era as well. It's a beautiful Surf Champ, of course, famous pinball machine from the 70s. We'll light it up. And the surfing theme, of course, has made this very successful, as is the fact that it's a 4-player game. So you can enjoy playing with your friends, be competitive about it. See the 5 targets at the top are thematic as well, with the surfer girls on them, and then you're making that shot in the right hole, especially as you're trying to build your score and your bonus. Once again, cool plastics with the different girls' art on it. And the guy and the girl with the surfboards in the center. Very, very iconic, beautiful game. Far out here, one of, I think, and there's just so many great pieces of art in this line of games. I think the Captain probably did this with a little bit of an eye to the art in this line, because that's just amazing to me. Far Out is another great piece for the 70s. I mean, look at Gordon Morrison's interpretation of that girl. This is just beautiful. Cool game, 4-player game. You can see the iconic Gottlieb sun show up again on this game, and this is a fun one because it's got the 10 targets to hit.